Thank you very much, Bob. The next speaker, also coming from afar, is Kurt Obley. Where are you, Kurt? Right here. You there? Good. So let me just tell our listeners here about your background. You're the Vice President with Cybersecurity Nexon Innovations for Lockheed Martin, Information Systems and Global Services. In your capacity, you are responsible for leading the creation of the next generation cybersecurity, cloud computing, mission-focused innovations, service management, mobile and integrated solutions. You are leading with Lockheed Martin their global next generation cyber innovation and technology centers. In the past, you led the creation of products and solutions architectures using agile software development, system engineering. All this is the background which allows you to give us your presentation about cyber trends, futures, and a roadmap to enhance security. Please, Kurt.
Well, good day, everyone. Team sport, and I was honored to be invited back to Israel to speak today and collaborate because I love coming to these events because I learn something new from the speakers that I listen to when I'm in the audience, and then the new relationships I make as I meet different folks from around the world. So today, with that whopping 15 minutes we have, I thought we'd cover a little bit about some of the bigger trends we're seeing out there in the market, then a little bit about two different frameworks that we use for both the analysis and roadmap to improve security posture. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll come away with a couple ideas on how to improve security posture. A little bit on Lockheed Martin Information Systems and Global Solutions. We're a smaller $10 billion division inside of Lockheed Martin. Fortunate enough to be #1 IT provider for the U.S. government. And we have the opportunity to work full life cycle of security from advanced R&D all the way through security operations and security intelligence center for approximately 2,300 customers around the world. You know, whenever I start talking about security, first thing I think of is what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? National security, a safe infrastructure, safe personal identity. I was on a panel about a month ago with a variety of my peers across the industry, and it was interesting listening to the different technology companies. And one company said we're all about cloud, and one company said we're all about security. And I was down the end, and they said, well, Kurt, what's Lockheed Martin about? And I said, we're all about our customer success, be it business objectives or mission objectives. So even though we talk about cybersecurity, and we'll get down into some of the technical nitty-gritty, at the end of the day, you want to provide the ability to fight through an attack. You don't want your power systems to go offline. You don't want your banking systems to go offline. You may be under attack, under duress, but that shouldn't stop you from getting your objective done. So this is the bigger picture trends. Yes, it's not really about cybersecurity. On the left-hand side of this chart, what you see is what's happening in our world today. Everybody here have a smartphone? Probably. Right? You may or may not be able to use that smartphone at your government job or your commercial work. When you go to work, it's usually a little slower. There's usually a separation between networks. But there's these mega trends happening. In fact, I would call them titanic, that are creating titanic shifts in the scale of what we have to manage and the access we have today. Some of these trends, social world, you have new consumer expectations, commodity everything. We see a converged life coming. Our last speaker talked about 80 gig speeds or more. Things aren't just moving in a stepping stone of speeds. It's exponentially increasing across the board. Creates a lot of opportunity. You have personal situation awareness that you've never had before. Great collaboration. I'm not really sure why you have to tell Facebook every single thing you do, like eating a pizza or going to the beach, but people do this, and it creates the opportunity to collaborate, but it also creates the opportunity of new attack surfaces for an adversary to take advantage of to meet their objectives. These adversaries are many. We've categorized the entire security world into 4 little buckets. The first one, Physical security and supply chain. If you don't have physical security and some level of assurance that you have a trusted supply chain, whatever you're starting with is not going to be secure. The next we talk about a bucket we call the 80% known threats. And these are threats that are not easy to manage, but if you commercial off-the-shelf technologies and you follow the best practices from, say, in the United States, the SANS Institute, we have the SANS top 20 best practices. If you follow them, you'll probably top 80% threats. Or if you're in Australia, from the DSD, they have the top 35. That's great. It will stop probably 80% of the known threats. As you go up, we then go into what we call the 20% advanced threats or unknowns. And that's where you're getting hundreds of thousands of new pieces of malware no one's ever seen before. We had a couple on the left-hand side over there, Stuxnet, Flame, others, that just pop up. These are from well-funded, well-organized groups. They test all their malware against all the tools you can buy off the shelf. So the probability they know an attack will work is high because they've tested it on what they can buy off the shelf. And then we go into unique capabilities that different civil or defense or intelligence group might need. And quite honestly, it's nice to be here at a university because in the world of cyber threats, just like you have software development tools that make it easier for you to develop software, there are a host of great cybersecurity tools that are literally point and click. And some tools, like Zeus, I can actually go on eBay, get a copy of it, and get a maintenance plan with it. So if my botnet's not working, I get my money back. What are some threats that we're seeing out there today? Well, back in 2006, email spoofing was big. But pretty much everybody knew I probably shouldn't buy something from Nigeria for $10,000 to get $1 million. Today, they look at your supply chain. Wow, this is a smaller company, but you work with them every day. Let's compromise them. I'll spoof a person. They don't know that they lost their identity. Then I'll try to attack you because it's from a trusted source. Lateral movement, jumping across networks now through social means. Fake sites used to be pretty common. Like you would go to www.yourfavoritebank.littlechange.com and it looks like your bank, but it's not. Now they just go ahead and try to go to legitimate sites and actually infect those. And then, of course, there are certain forms of two-factor authentication, which we thought was a pretty good method, and it still is, but if you're not using the right methods, even two-factor authentication is now being compromised. So what might you do to manage these risks and ensure a resilient solution? We created a framework, and this is published. You can check it out on the web, Lockheed Martin Kill Chain Analysis. And we created a framework to better enable a defender the ability to win. I don't know if anybody's ever heard, but usually they say, well, a defender has to be right every single time because the offense has the advantage. I disagree. If you look at this analysis here, this is what an average adversary needs to go through to be successful. First, I'm going to use myself as an example because sometime tomorrow this will happen to me. Someone on the net, because I do speak in the public on occasion, I'm very lucky to do so, someone will recon and find my email address out there. They will then create a weapon. They will take a PDF. They will embed a zero-day attack in it. They'll send a bad URL, and I will get this link, and I'm not sure why they do it pretty commonly, but I get it, and if I were to double-click on it, and I didn't have that end-user training, they would have delivered an exploit onto my Mac, compromised my system, installed their code, created a command and control channel back to wherever that infrastructure was set up, and then they would take their action on objectives. Maybe it's to steal information or just have a little fun with my privacy. And we found this structure to be a very good guide when we start wanting to understand adversaries better. Because once you start to understand how an adversary works, then you can put countermeasures in place to defend yourself. Here is a framework that uses our kill chain analysis. So on the kill chain on the left, we have the ability to detect, deny, disrupt, degrade, or deceive an adversary. So if we're able to stop them at the reconnaissance phase, we're being very proactive. That network situation awareness that our last speaker spoke about is very important, because in case they are able to deliver a new form of malware, the ability to detect it and stop it in a resilient or integrated fashion is still good, but we don't want to wait until they're down creating a command and control channel out to the outside world. We want to stop them as high in the chain as possible so we can be proactive. So a common question we get is, hey Kurt, this is great. You know information about the adversaries. We see the trends. We have a very big challenge of defending a rapidly changing environment so we can keep up in the business world. What steps do I take to improve our security posture? Well, it's really easy. It's just 2 steps. 1, defend your enterprise, and 2, ensure business success. Pretty simple. On the left-hand side of this chart, what you see is security effectiveness and mission enablement improves as you go north, and then to the right, it does take time to put in the appropriate defenses, and you have to be very vigilant. And that foundation is having the right people and the right processes and the right technologies in place. So let's drill down a little bit into defending your enterprise. I talked about the 80% known threat and the 20% unknown threat. So the first step, we have a series of steps that help a customer, and we use this ourselves, to actually improve your ability to defend. And if we drill down to this a little bit more, it actually starts with the building block you see in the upper left-hand side. You want to have metrics. How well are you doing or not? You need to have the right people trained. That's why the school systems and universities and collaboration become so important. And you have to have them organized in a fashion that is most effective. Tradecraft. It's hard to take someone immediately from school and put them right into a cyber defensive situation. They need to learn the tradecraft, and they may have learned that a lot on their own, but there's training that we can provide for folks that allows them to advance that tradecraft to really understand the adversary and be able to defend yourself. And then, of course, there's supporting technology. The technology is important, but if you don't have the items above it, the technology is actually quite worthless. So level 1 environments, we call it ad hoc. It's kind of a running joke. We said it, we forget it, and we hope for the best. I don't recommend this. Step 2, you become a spectator. Limited computer network defense collaboration. You start listening to different vendors. They got great ideas. I start putting some of the pieces in place. I get an alert once in a while, and maybe I open a security incident. Level 3, I start becoming a consumer of cyber intelligence. I start looking at what's happening around this, better understanding of the situation awareness of my network, what's important to me. Now I have real metrics. I can complete incident tracking and map it to our kill chain methodology. I start looking at campaigns. If something happened once, that's bad. If I see 2 things happen from the same actor, that's a little bit worse. If I start seeing 3, 4, 5 things happening, and I'm noticing the same adversary attacking my network over time, well, now I have a real problem. But because I understand what that adversary might be doing, I can then move to what I would call level 4, which is a producer of cyber intelligence, where you're sharing it in the community. If you remember, I started off my short talk on saying that cybersecurity is a team sport. There is always a risk, because if they know that you know that they know, and you know that they know, they may change their tools, techniques, and procedures. So you do have to be in an environment where you have trusted relationships to share this information. But now you're looking at the 20% metrics. You're looking at fusing the intelligence across the different silos of vendor tools and environments that you have so that you can have extensive situation awareness. You're training your end users, you're training your engineers, you're training your administrators, and you're even training those executive folks to give you more money for your budget. And of course, then we move to what we call level 5, where you start getting into cyber prediction and using techniques like open source intelligence and the ability to help the community at large. Now, where you land on this, well, that's based on you. You know what's best for your environment. This just provides a guide, a capability maturity guide, to help you move to whatever level of goal that you're trying to achieve. So with that, I wanted to thank everybody. And I hope everybody has a great conference.